Hello, good evening, and thanks for joining us on today's edition of Political Voice, POV, on Voice of the People Television. I am Chukwuma Okoro. This evening, we shall be looking at Ohanaeze Ndigbo as Ezenekwe asks Ikwerre ethnic group to rally around Azuta-Mbata. When we move away from that, we'll talk about Kemi Bednock. As Boala says, use of Nigeria won't affect investor confidence. Oh well, those are the stories we shall be focusing on today. But before we get right into these stories, let's take a look at happenings around the world. And we'll start from South Korea, where the president has denied ordering lawmakers. Yoon Suk-yeol has made his first appearance at the impeachment trial, where he denied ordering in January, about a week after Mondlane held his own inauguration to declare himself the people's president. And we come back to Nigeria, where Balami has knocked Ibokwe because Ibokwe says that his rhetoric concerning 2027 is archaic. Now, a former deputy campaign manager for Obidati campaign organization in the 2023 election, Isaac Balami, has knocked a chieftain of the All Progressives Congress, APC, Joe Ibokwe, over his stand on the 2027 Goba election in Lagos State. Ibokwe had said ruling Lagos was not a job for the boys, stating that the call was a distraction aimed at pulling President Bola Ahmed Tinubu down. But in a statement made available to newsmen on Tuesday, Balami, now an APC chieftain, said that despite his respect for Ibokwe, whom he had known to be a youth advocate, his position on the matter was archaic and did not have a place in modern democracy that is chiefly driven by young and innovative minds. The former spokesman of the Trade Union Congress, TUC, expressed shock that the controversial comment could originate from Ibokwe's page, saying that good political actors will always stand with what they believe in. He said, and I quote, "I had thought Ibokwe believes so much in the potential of the Nigerian youths." End of quote. Oh well, those are the stories making the round around the world. Now let's delve into the two major topics we are looking at today. Now, because going into it now, Ohanaeze Ndigbo has said, the leader of Ohanaeze, Ezenekwe, has asked Ikwerre ethnic group to rally around Azuta-Mbata. Now, let's go for a quick break, and when we return, we'll delve into that topic immediately. Please stay with us and don't go away. All right, welcome back and thanks for staying with us. And if you are just joining us, this is Political Voice on Voice of the People Television. Now, the President General of all Igbo-speaking people in the Federal Capital Territory, FCT Abuja, under the umbrella of Igbo Communities Association, Ikwerre Ezenekwe, has urged the Ikwerres, an ethnic group in Rivers State, to rally around the new Ohanaeze Ndigbo President General, Senator Azuta-Mbata. Ezenekwe went on to praise the Ohanaeze Ndigbo for conducting an election that reflected collective Igbo unity. There has been disquiet in Ikwerre since Azuta-Mbata's emergence, with some of the indigenes attacking him for accepting the role. Just last week, the Obako Ikwerre Cultural Organization Worldwide in Rivers State said it had disowned Senator Azuta-Mbata, President General of Ohanaeze Ndigbo, accusing him of assuming the position without consulting his kinsmen, community or kingdom. The organization further stated that by accepting the position, Azuta-Mbata had renounced his identity as an Ikwerre man to align himself with an organization exclusively reserved for the Igbo people. However, Ezenekwe has cautioned against division. He urged the Ikwerre people to foster a harmonious atmosphere for the new Ohanaeze leader. Ezenekwe said, and I quote, "Ikwerre is Igbo. It has always been Igbo and will remain Igbo. We are together and we speak the same language. No more division within us." End of quote. Oh, well, now let's bring in our guest. I have in the studio here with me Mr. Dele Fanimo. Dele is a seasoned reporter and a VOP in-house analyst. Dele, welcome to the show.
Good evening. I'm happy to be here today.
Okay, and we are joined from our Oka studio by Barrister Ejogu. Barrister Jogo, good evening and thanks for coming on the show. Barrister Ejiofor Umebogu, please, welcome to the show. Can you hear me? Okay, I understand that he's here to join. We're also expecting Comrade Bobby Ehosa Obayowana, who also joins on from Benin Studio. Bobby is a political analyst, social commentator, and development communications expert. Bobby, you are welcome to the show. Okay, I understand that they are here to join us. Now, let's start with Mr. Fanimo that is in the studio. This developing story, I don't know for how long that story is going to be sustained, considering the fact that within 1 week of that election, a lot of people expected that all the issues surrounding the disunity, the identity crisis around the Igbo or Ikwerre community, to a point will have been resolved up until this moment. But we see a back and forth between some elements, some sections of the Ikwerre community in particular, saying, no, we are Igbo. No, we are not Igbo, we are Ikwerre. We have a unique cultural, we have a unique ethnic identity. But that has not happened. And we heard the Minister of FCT blot out recently. He said Azuta-Mbata is on his own. Clearly, he's on his own. He said, if he wants to be Igbo, he can be Igbo. I am Ikwerre, I'm not Igbo. In the light of this, does it look like there is still some kind of a web of politics surrounding all of what has happened between the Ikwerre people and the Igbo people, especially what this election has thrown up in the last 1 week?
You see, the emergence of Mbata has thrown up an issue, and that issue is that beyond identity issue, there's a political undertone in whatever had transpired in the emergence of this Ikwerre man as the leader of the Pan Igbo socio-cultural organization. And why it is political now is the fact that the colonial masters that delineated Nigeria before the regional government and later on the 12 states created by General Yakubu Gowon had the sole aim of promoting commerce in the creation of these delineations. Now, because of the aftermath of the Civil War, the then government felt they don't want homogeneous regional government. Before then, during the first regional government, Rivers was part of the Southeast. They were not calling them Southeast then.
It was Eastern region. Eastern region. Okay, Eastern region.
Eastern region before they created this Central State.
Yes.
Now, it was purely political at that time. They had to sever Edo from the west. They severed Delta.
Bendel.
They coined Bendel.
From the Midwest.
Benin is the BN, then Delta for the so they came. And in the process of this geographical delineation, they took away part of the whole and ceded it to some of these new creations, and which effectively polarized these homogeneous culturally identified people into different locations. That was the beginning of this crisis. Now, it also happened in Kogi and Kwara.
Okay.
As a result of all this, those people that promoted these things didn't envisage the political backlash that would emanate from it. They started noticing it. They started exploiting it when that River State was created. And then later on, Delta State was created. Now, it is now just like the Ilorin people. Ilorin people are basically Yoruba. But when they know that they will benefit more as part of the northern region, they would cling on to northern region and remain part of the 19 states of the northern region. But the moment there is, and of course, most of these people, you find out that they are always in the minority in the new creation, except on few occasions. So when they now get marginalized, that's when they now remember their kith and kins from the original location where they severed that tie through just land or water separation, which should not be the main reason why they have to alienate themselves from their original roots. So what played out now is that Ikwerre people, they are also looking at what would befall them if they insist on aligning with the core Southeast. Who absorbs them? What is their lot in any new arrangement that would presupposes that they belong to the Southeast? They feel that it is better for them to remain in River State, where they have more stakes, where they can aspire to certain things. But the moment they cross over to the Southeast, they are newcomers, and it will be very difficult for them to be absorbed. And that's what is playing out. So that's why they are resisting that push that, okay, for instance, an Ilorin man would have been better served if he identifies himself as Yoruba.
Okay.
Because I've been issue, they are Yoruba, they speak Yoruba, okay. They do the things Yoruba do, the same culture, is the same reference, and it's the same root. They trace their roots. No Ilorin man will trace his roots to Fulani, except when they want to deceive you.
Okay.
Because they don't even have any strain of Fulani in their blood.
Okay.
And they don't even speak Fulfulde, which is the official language of Fulani. So how would you now say you are Fulani? But when it is convenient for them, that's why you recall that the likes of Awoniyi, that was secretary to Sardauna,
and later was the leader of the Northern Elders
Forum. Yes. When it was time for him to contest,
he went to the north.
He went to the north. What did they tell him? He said, have you ever heard of Awoniyi in the north?
I think the same thing happened to Olushola
Saraki. Who is that person that bears Olushola in the north? So better go back to your kith and kin. So it's a dicey situation for them.
I understand that perspective.
So you can now see. Now, Wike would also fight. Is an Ikwerre man.
Okay. Amechi says Amibo.
Whereas they are both Ikwerre.
Yes, and both of them are Ikwerre.
You see, to even it was a long drawn thing. You recall that I'm told, I'm not somebody that is steeped in Igbo names and cultures.
Okay.
But I'm told that the Ikwerre man adulterated his name to suit the purpose of severing his relationship. I'm told that the name Wike is supposed to be Nwike. You know?
Yes.
And because he wants to sever his ties, he had to remove that N to give a semblance of a new identity.
Okay.
So it is not something that just happened today. Okay. And if it has to be corrected.
In all of this, some people, the political angle I'm looking at it is that some people believe that, look, that Fubara is the person that actually is behind Azuta-Mbata's emergence. And that he is using it to rubbish the Ikwerre people, to say, like, to give credence to what you are saying. You people don't belong here.
You don't belong here.
You know, you are Igbos.
It was just a creation of the government that seeded your tribe.
How far can that narrative be? How far can it be pushed? Considering that, I mean, we have entrenched. If you come to River State, you have Ikwerre people that are very prominent. People like, you recall that there was a certain Senator Obiwale who represented River State in the Senate. That was in 1979. Obiwale.
Yes.
You know, Obiwale is the actual pronunciation.
Okay.
You know, Wale. That is, Wale means Nwale. the son of the soil.
So they remove
They
N.
remove the N, you know, to say Wale, you understand? So, and all of that. And a lot of them, like I've mentioned Obi-Wan, you attended Ohanaeze Ndigbo meeting regularly. And let's even do some kind of historical trace now. Ohanaeze metamorphosed from Igbo State Union. When Zeke came back from US, you know, he tried to rally the Igbo people together and form the Igbo State Union. And it was Igbo State Union in Lagos, you know. At a point, it became a national thing. And do you know that when it was changed from Igbo State Union to Ohanaeze, the event took place in Port Harcourt.
And there was no eyebrow.
And there was no eyebrow. Even the Igbo State Union used to have their head office. Sometime when they moved from Lagos, their head office went to Port Harcourt and all of that. So it is curious to understand, to see how people, you know, but it's good that you have traced this to politics. But the angle I'm looking at it now is, does it look like this is an extension of the rift between Nyesom Wike and Siminalayi Fubara? Considering that some people have, the Ikwerre people, some elements in Ikwerre land have accused Fubara of being the person behind this.
You see, let me tell you, nothing is beneath politics and politicians. Nothing. The best weapon in politics is divide and rule. Up until now, the Ikwerres had a fair share of the spoil of office in Rivers State. Amechi was one. Wike was one. Now, Fubara came, and they still feel that the Jaws in Rivers State, in spite of their population, are still considered as, you know, minority. Now, for Fubara to accentuate the position of Ijaw group in Rivers State, he will need to decimate the ranks of the Ikwerres.
People.
And this is the best way to do it. Now, there are opposing camps within Ikwerre. And if the stakeholders in Ohanaeze and those people that are prominent in Igbo land, if they don't come quickly to nip it in the bud and make sure that they thaw the crisis, it will snowball to a point that some people will go left and other people will go right. And dividing them is also game for him in 2027.
Okay.
Because they will not, the moment somebody from Ikwerre is contesting election in 2027, probably against Fubara, there's tendency for him to make sure that he escalates that crisis in Ikwerre
land. Okay.
And then people will form allegiance to wherever they belong. And it's easy for him to penetrate the ones that are aggrieved.
Okay, does it look like the Ikwerre people are miscalculating? Because if they latch onto the fact that they are Igbos, and we are still looking at 2027, if they eventually push that narrative towards being Igbo, you know, don't you think that they are shooting themselves on the foot by actually fighting with Fubara on the strength that he is dividing them? Because the River State has a very large Igbo population, away from the Ikwerre people, the Ikwerre ethnic group.
So there are some other subgroups.
No. I'm not talking about subgroups. In River State, you have
the Jaws, the Ikwerres,
the Omuma, the Andoni, you know, the Opobo people. These are Igbo-speaking people. What I'm talking about is people from Imo, Abia, Anambra, Enugu, Ebonyi, that are resident in River State.
Over generations.
No, over generations.
That's what I'm saying, over generations.
Yes. And since after the war, too.
Yeah.
My point is that they constitute a major, more than 45% of the population of Port Harcourt local government, Port Harcourt 1 and 2, Ikwerre, Obiakpo, and all of that, doing business. And they have a very large population, a chunk of it. So the Ikwerre people, aren't they miscalculating by trying to distance themselves from the Igbo community? Because that would have been an easy route for them to even take back the governorship from the Ijaw people if they follow that route.
But that's what Fubara is
fighting against.
A cohesive Igbo-speaking nation within that state.
Okay.
Is a minus for him in his bid for second term.
Okay.
But a divided group in that state is blessing to him. And so whatever is required to push through this agenda in making sure that there is division, Fubara will be ready for it.
Okay, before we get out of this topic, now Professor Patu told me when he heard, I'm not sure he's around, but when he heard that Azuta-Mbata, a Rivers man, has emerged the president of Ohanaeze Ndigbo, he proclaimed that, look, this is the beginning of the end of the civil war. Meaning essentially what you said, that look, the division of Ikwerres and Igbos is essentially an outgrowth of the civil war. Now, my question is, how do you think that an Azuta-Mbata, under this crisis situation, will be able to drive that unity?
You see, an acceptance of Azuta-Mbata is the beginning of assuaging frayed nerves. Because if somebody is coming from your own end, it's easier for you to listen to that person than somebody who is just coming from somewhere and trying to impose certain things on you. We need to douse that tension that emanated from this civil war, where they say, what is it? The
no victor.
No. That they took over some people's assets.
Abandoned property.
Abandoned property.
Okay.
Now, that narrative is still very strong among the Ikwerres and all these Igbo-speaking peoples, because a lot of people didn't come back to meet their assets.
Yes.
So they are still, and issues like that are passed from one generation to the other. And so, either good or bad, because they are being told by their forebearers, they will tend to hold on to it. And so, a second coming of imposition of a socio-cultural organization within that enclave will mean that, because you think we are forgotten, that you claim that our father's property, our grandfather's property was abandoned property and taken over. Now you want to come again just because you want to use us. That will be the narrative of those who are old enough to have witnessed what happened during the war and aftermath of the war.
Okay.
Now, somebody has to come to change that narrative. And I think that is the more reason why
an Azuta-Mbata
we would have to change the narrative. Even if it was meant to destabilize the Ikwerres, now he knows that he has assumed that position. He should be able to use that position to rather reunite. Mark my word, reunite. They were united before the war. Okay. It was after the war
that the division.
There was division. So he must find a way of reuniting these people if they want a larger stake in the politics of 2027. Otherwise, if it continues, Fubara will reap maximally from this in 2027. If it continues, Fubara will reap maximally from it. And I can assure you that he would try as much as possible to fuel it so that there is no consensus before 2027.
All right, then, thanks very much, Dele Fanimo. That's how far we can go on this topic. Now, let's get into the second topic, which is about Kemi Badenoch. As Buala has said that, look, UK politicians' criticisms of Nigeria won't affect investor confidence. President Bola Tinubu's special advisor on policy communication, Daniel Buala, says Kemi Badenoch's criticism about Nigeria is aimed at gaining acceptance from her party. Just last week, Badenoch, leader of UK's Conservative Party, said she does not want the consequences of, quote, terrible governments like Nigeria to play out in Britain, end of quote. Now, the politician who spoke on the importance of building trust and touting the Conservative Party as the right group to fix Britain, likened a possibility of the UK becoming like Nigeria if the system is not reformed. In a swift reaction, Buala doused fears that Badenoch's remarks about Nigeria will affect the country's international relations or efforts to attract investors. Acknowledging Badenoch's achievement in the UK, he added that she is capitalizing on populism that thrives on public discontent and feeds on people's anger. Okay, now we've been joined from Benin Studio by Comrade Bob Ehosa Obayowana. Good evening to you, Comrade Bob, and thanks for joining us.
Good evening, and thanks for having me
Hello, Bob, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
I think there's an... Bob, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear, sir.
Well, now thanks for coming on this show. Kemi Badenoch is at it again, and he said, look, she doesn't want UK to turn like Nigeria because according to her, Nigeria, it's more like Nigeria doesn't treat its people well. And Daniel Buara has responded to Kemi's outburst and says, look, whatever Kemi is saying about Nigeria, this is not the first time she's making this kind of statement. You recall that like a few weeks ago, like about a month or thereabout, Kemi said, look, the Nigerian police, they are bad people. They took my brother's shoes and wristwatch and all of that. And Nigerian government responded. Recall when the Senate, when the vice president took on Kemi and all of that. And well, Daniel Buara, special advisor to the president on policy communication, says that, look, Kemi's outburst will not affect investor confidence in Nigeria. Let's have your broad reaction on all that has happened, right from when the president took on Kemi and now that Kemi is again saying something that most people consider as being negative about Nigeria. Can we have your broad reaction to all of that?
Thank you. Kemi Badenoch's reaction situation, the reality that Nigerians face currently in the country, as negative as it may sound, it doesn't take away the fact that there is a truism of the fact that Kemi Badenoch has made. Remember, there was a time where the current president of the United States of America said that Nigeria is fucked. And these issues surrounding the Nigerian socio-political context is as a result of the fact that the leadership of the country has failed the citizenry woefully. If not, we will not be having Kemi Badenoch using the Nigerian socio-political situation as a negative example in the international community. Nigeria belongs to the international political system. Nigeria is a nation that has abundance of human resources, material resources, yet maladministration from the failure of leadership has been the consistent narrative that Nigerians have been used to over time. So, Kemi Badenoch's speech, right from the presidency's reaction in the former one, is as a result of the fact that the leadership of the day has refused to fix the developmental issues that are bedeviling the nation. They have refused to give the international community positive, productive, utilitarian reasons why they should believe in the capacity and in the capability of the leadership of the day in Nigeria. And the reaction from the president's special advisor on policy communication is just a damage control that cannot really outwit the fact and Badenoch is making me of the position of Nigeria because of the leadership in the country. And Daniel Buala's reaction is only trying to want a positive image where there is a situation in the country cannot afford a square capital income of an average working Nigerian. What is the percentage of the working population force of the country? What is the productive of social capital? Our GDP, where has it gotten us to? Our industrial, our economic, all our sectors.
Now, Bobby, before we get into all of that, do you think that Kemi should be using her platform, to more like denigrate Nigeria? Should she not concentrate on her duty as leader of the Conservative Party in the UK? A lot of people will disagree with her, though, despite the fact that, look, there's some, like you said, there's some kind of truism in all that she had said. Should she use that platform to kind of, to paint Nigeria in bad light in the international community?
No, I would say she should not capitalize on the fact that there is leadership failure in Nigeria just now to begin to use a privileged platform of being the representative member of the Conservative Party of Great Britain to start denigrating and castigating the reputation of Nigeria. Nigeria remains a land that is blessed with abundance of resources. Nigeria remains a land that is of development. If the leadership can be able to give us reason to believe Nigerians forward, leadership in aspiration for votes, aspiration for patience, aspiration for an aspiration for patriotism and loyalty to the Republic of Nigeria. So I think and I feel that in as much as there is a truism in what Kemi Badenoch has just said, it should not be a yardstick for her to begin to repeat the reputation of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. If not for the failure of leadership, for the failure of governance, and for the politics in Nigeria, a Kemi Badenoch will not be making negative reference of in that she is wanting to consolidate the efforts of Great Britain. And the Buala is not entirely true. Kemi Badenoch a rhetorical statement. I would disagree with that if we do not continue to make negative reference to Nigeria. The government location, the most probability is Nigerians of governance, Nigerians of democracy deserve the best of service from all elective and appointive offices across all sectors and across all levels.
Do stay with us. I will come back to you in the course of the show. Let's bring it back to the studio. Now, Dele, you understand what has been going on between the federal government, the vice president, Kemi Badenoch, her statements and reactions and all of that. And Daniel Buala has come out to say, look, whatever Kemi says, is not going to affect negatively investor confidence in Nigeria. Do you agree with Daniel Buala? I mean, that this thing is not going to take away anything that investors, whatever Kemi does, that investors will come from Europe and all parts of the world, that is not going to take away anything from the investable fortunes of Nigeria.
I don't know where he's coming from with that kind of narrative. In the first instance, let's take an analogy. If your wife comes to an open forum and says, my husband is this, this, and this, who else would that forum believe if not your wife? Who is supposed to be the closest person to you? It's your wife.
What if they think that you are quarreling with your wife?
There is nothing, especially when they know that some of those things had happened around you and other people had said it. So your wife has only come to validate those positions against you, and they will believe her. It's a stamp. Now, if Kemi has come up, let me tell you from day one, okay. I never liked those statements.
Okay.
Because there's a level, I remember when we talked about it, you were trying to say how do you place patriotism side by side, truth?
And yes.
But I told you then that sometimes it is opposite when you begin to paint a picture, even when it is true.
Okay.
There are some hard truths that you have to keep and begin to work on the ground.
Like being correct, essentially. Being correct.
Trying to correct.
No, to be politically correct. In that
Yes,
instance.
yes.
Okay.
Now, Kemi holds a very important position. If perhaps his party, a party formed the majority in the next election, Kemi could emerge as Prime Minister of Britain.
Okay.
And whatever she's saying now will be held against Nigeria. If there is a forum that the President of Nigeria is going to attend, that they have arrayed investors from UK for the President to address, there is no way reference will not be made of this position Kemi has taken against Nigeria. And it will be very hard for either the president or his representative at that forum to convince those investors that if police authorities is an essential part of the running of a country,
Internal security.
and if that woman had taken the police force in Nigeria to the cleaners to the extent that they took, and this is something that is happening to her directly, not that she read or heard.
Yeah.
There's no way anybody can convince those investors that that institution, the Nigerian police, had changed between when that incident happened and now, given the fact that the person that is making that allusion is also a Nigerian by birth. So, if anybody is now coming to say it will not affect Nigeria, how is that possible? Kemi is not talking about individual in Nigeria. He's not talking about an armed robber that took his a brother's shoes and wristwatches. He's talking about somebody who should protect a brother turning to armed robber. There is no way it will not affect. That means if a national is assailed by that kind of harassment in his father's land, then how would somebody who is just coming, that is not a national, be protected by the forces that are supposed to be on top of internal security, who should provide security cover for both indigenes and non-indigenes? How would that investor be comfortable coming to Nigeria?
So does it look like Daniel Buala is just
trying to
defend the indefensible?
He's just trying to paper and make up for Nigeria in the case of that scathing statement from
But if you look at it, Britain doesn't even account. In Europe, Britain is about number 6 or number 7 in a trading partner that Nigeria has. The number 1 is Spain. The number 2 is, I think, Netherlands, Spain. France is even number 3. I think UK, Germany is number 4. Britain is probably number 6 or 7. And so, how will that affect our trade relations with them?
Now, let me tell you, anything that is coming from anywhere outside Nigeria is something that we need for now.
Okay.
In terms of foreign direct investment. And so, we can't discountenance any nation at this time.
Okay.
Because we're not self-sufficient. So anything that will ruffle feathers, anything that will debar such investment coming to Nigeria, even a tiny island like Seychelles and maybe Trinidad and Tobago or even Sao Tome and Principe here, we cannot afford to ignore such investments. Because look at the number of people that are thrown into job markets. Look at the decaying infrastructure. Some of these investors will build infrastructure around their facilities that will make their stay comfortable and for those who they are recruiting to work for them. Is that not a plus for Nigeria? So even if Britain is number 25 in bilateral trade relations. We still need every pound that comes from Britain to Nigeria. So if anything is going to rock the boat that will not make those investments come to Nigeria, I think we should be uncomfortable with that arrangement. And that is why I don't want to listen and believe what Boala is saying. Boala is just trying to douse tension where there's nothing to douse other than to find a way of making sure that Kemi reduces, if not actually stopping.
Exactly the point. I was coming to that point.
You know?
Now let's bring in Bobby back into this conversation. Bobby, you heard what Daniel Boala said. I mean, his reaction that, look, whatever Kemi is saying is not going to affect investor confidence. What's your reaction to what Daniel Boala said?
For me, Daniel Boala's reaction to Kemi Badenoch's statements about the Nigerian socio-political situation is rather cosmetic. It is devoid of any reality that Nigerians want to be part of right now and just now. Boala is only trying to defend his principal's reputation and collect his stipends at the end of the month. Nigerians are tired of people that are doing damage control for leaders that do not give them any reasons to continue to support their supposed democratic administration. Nigerians are tired of excuses. You keep doing damage control, trying to defend the indefensible, and our reputation in the international community cannot be salvaged, even by Nigerians that have left the shores of this country, gone to other countries, and have become more productive in those nations rather than it's supposed to be in their land. Is not sufficient enough for Nigerians to listen to. Daniel Boala's comment is not even a comment that reflects integrity. We are seeing a situation where he is coming out to say that Kemi Badenoch's statement is a rhetoric. Let's not forget that the Great Britain is part of the Security Council of the United Nations. And so, the Great Britain has a say in the major socio-political dynamics of the international community. And if such a statement is taken lightly, the economic fabrics of this country can dwindle if we do not fix our nation now. And that is why I am charging up the political class. They should rise up to the occasion. We are tired of seeing reactive measures in governance. We need proactive measures. Let them fix the security architecture of this nation.
What would be your advice to the Nigerian government? Should they reach out to Kemi to say, look, is there any way they can rein her in and say, look, Kemi, what you are doing is not good. It's not good for the image of Nigeria. It doesn't speak well to our national interest and within the international community. Do you think the government should do that?
The best way of not making that the Nigerian government considers denigrating and pugnacious is for the Nigerian government to fix its where if and not to time. Reaching out to enough to stop making such statements make more meaning and sense if the government of the day is making frantic efforts to better the lives of Nigerians out there. We cannot to one that is giving us infrastructural decay as pension for our votes in every 4 years. We cannot continue to have a system that cannot guarantee a confident and a formidable security architecture for the country. We cannot continue to have a system that cannot guarantee employment for its citizenry, considering the humongous resources that this nation is blessed with, both material and human. So the best way to reach out to Kemi Badenoch, as my advice to the political class and to the federal government of Nigeria, is that they should continue to fix some of these issues that is making us a laughingstock in the international community. The political class must...
Hosa Obayowana, thanks for coming on the show. Let's get Mr. Fanimo's wrap on the show. In the conduct of diplomacy, do you think it's appropriate you know, for the Nigerian government to reach out, you know, whether even if it is how can I put it now? Surreptitiously. Can they reach out to Kemi and say, look,
why not?
You are one of our own.
Why not?
What if there's a
backlash?
A backlash. What would be would the government have a face to say,
no,
or will it lead to a series of denials and counter denials? No. We did and we didn't.
You see, Kemi, there is a way you want to appeal to somebody of Kemi's mindset.
Okay.
You're not just going to go there and begin to lecture her outrightly. There are some people that are close to Kemi that she listens to.
Okay.
You would have thought the crisis through them before you now bring in the full weight of diplomacy into it.
A lot of people believe that this government is very arrogant. Do you think they will take that route?
Why wouldn't
or
they
will call her bluff?
Because it's beginning to get clearer that if we are going to go by this Boala's mindset, it's like you are dismissing what that woman is saying. And no government. It's just like the biblical saying that somebody left 99 of his flock and went after one that got missing. We can't discountenance any country, as like I said earlier. For now, we can't discountenance any country as long as we are looking for FDI.
Okay.
And in the process of looking for that, if anybody is going to be an impediment to it, and it's not within Nigeria, you can go after that person and appeal to the conscience of that person.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Dele Fanimo. And this is how far we can go on Political Voice this evening. I've been speaking with two gentlemen, Mr. Dele Fanimo. Dele is a seasoned reporter and VOP in-house analyst. We were joined from our Benin studio by Comrade Bobby Ehosa Obayowana. Bobby is a political commentator and a social critic. Gentlemen, thanks for coming on this show. Now, I am Chukwuma Okoro. Please do well to join us same time tomorrow, 6 p.m. for another interesting edition of Political Voice, POV, on Voice of the People Television. And from me, it's bye for now.